lift every voice and sing. Let's put an end to this era of our brothers killing one another. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Now let's change the world. Let's change the world. Yeah. Let's
change the world. Please!
Let's change the world, yeah. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Milestones Squadcast here at Spokane Talks. I got Jeff Ross with me and brother Ed Richardson. It's just gonna be us three today as Jan and Phil are not able to join us, but we're gonna do it up today though. How you brothers doing?
Excellent. Loving it. Loving it. I want to build a snowman.
Uh-oh. I got a joke I heard from a kid the other day. Something about a vampire snowman. What do you get when you are attacked by a vampire snowman?
No clue.
She told me frostbite. I don't know. So
I like it.
She was a little 8-year-old. I might have butchered the joke, but yeah, you said something about a snowman, and I just thought of that.
I like it.
We're gonna jump right into it. We've been talking for a little bit about fatherlessness in our community, and today I want to talk specifically how that affects our youth. Can you guys kind of give a little background on what you do and your experience with the youth in our communities and how long you've been doing it?
So for me, I'm Ed. I'm originally from Chicago and came out here to Spokane, Washington. Oh my God, like 1993 or so. Wound up going east of Washington, then started working with adolescents at a place, Daybreak. I worked at Daybreak. I worked at Morning Star. I worked at Excelsior. So I've been working with the youth for many years. Now I decided to get into law enforcement and worked 15 years over there in Kootenai County for the Sheriff's Department and Coeur d'Alene PD. And I just recently kind of transferred over here as a reserve officer for the city of Spokane. And so for me, that's my background, just working with the kids, just loving it. Want to try to give back. As I'm not saying I was the greatest father or the greatest person, but I'm trying to give back the knowledge that one person showed me. I want to give back to our kids and just continue to give and provide to our kids in Spokane.
That's what's up, man. What about you, Jeff Ross?
Been working with youth for about 23 years in this city. The number one issue, Sean, like we've talked about, all the youth, at-risk youth, right? So predominantly kids, 12 to 19. The number one common thread that they all have is no dads. So it's interesting, right? And so, those are the kids we get the privilege to work with, man. Just the fallout or the breakdown of the family and the absentee of dads. Everything
Absolutely.
else, the young girls try to fill that void with something that God pre-wired between a dad and a daughter. And even the moms, too. It even goes beyond fatherlessness, even with moms and stuff, too. But just the breakdown of the family, man, how the enemy targets the family, right? And, man, when he breaks down the family, he's got it all. So, yep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a job with YFC right now if dads were just present with their kids.
Yeah, I hear that, man. You said something interesting. That you said something about it goes beyond fatherlessness. And Ed, when we had our first conversation, you had an interesting perspective on that whole theme right there, fatherlessness and just even kids struggling with both parents in the house. So
Yeah, I mean,
It sounded like an even bigger issue than just kids without fathers. Like it sounds like a much bigger issue among our youth and
yeah, I
their
think,
outside influences.
yep. And I think the one of the big thing is just because a young man, a dad is, and it's hard, and because of pops is not in the house, we cannot always use that as an excuse because there's some wonderful neighbors. I know it's not the same because sometimes, unfortunately, situations happen to dads where they're not there, or where they get killed, or they get locked up in prison, or they move out of the country to do other things. And so we have wonderful people that I personally, and probably the same thing for Jeff, been working and try and fill that void. And when that question happens, who are we? Because like I told you before, I had the same situation. You know, my daughter graduated with her MSW just recently, but me and mom didn't see eye to eye. Then the friend adopted her, and it was like she came back into my life at like I think 14 via Facebook, sent me a message because, and we still try and get to know each other. Like, hey, I know who you are, but unfortunately, some things happened where I wasn't a bad person. I just felt on myself that I wasn't ready, and I was more embarrassed of myself because I was never raised like that. And so I put some finger pointing on myself with my own kids, and thank God they're doing, knock on wood, well. Um, so yeah, that's why I see a lot of work in the schools. We got wonderful people, still with teachers, but still I understand that's not that blood, and sometimes people want their dads.
Absolutely. You mentioned something too in our first conversation, and I've seen the same challenges that Youth for Christ is having. And you mentioned something about these kids don't want to be leaders. You
No,
remember that?
yeah, it's hard to, right? I don't know if Jeff's saying it, but it's hard to. You see this potential, like you are a great leader, like you great, but when they leave the residence, um, it's a different world out there for them. I'm not sure how we can continue to do that, especially when we have, I see kids in the school, like 4.0 students. I had a kid, eighth grade, she graduated now, got into a fight. And I was like, let me check your grades. Straight A's, never had an F in middle school. And I hear fighting and they say, I don't want to be that. No, I want kids to see me different. And I just don't know how to, I meet with many people, but I just don't know how to change that. So maybe Jeff has something, ideas, but I struggle with that.
Jeff, what's your experience with that? I know you guys got a program that stands. It's an acronym that stands for Leaders in Training.
Mm-hmm.
And in my time, I did an internship at Youth for Christ for 4 months last year, and even then, I remember like seeing in all the centers just a challenge to fill the seats with students for that leadership training program. So Jeff, are you still experiencing that? What do you think that's about, man?
The struggle with trying to get kids into leadership roles.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. I don't know. It sure takes a lot to shift a mindset of an at-risk youth who young people have such high ACEs scores. I don't know if anybody knows about the ACEs score. It's trauma-based
yeah.
things and the way,
Adverse childhood experiences.
yeah, and how the brain
Yeah.
forms and stuff. A lot of the young people we work with are just in fight or flight mode. And
Hmm.
so, man, it just takes a while to work with them, to keep discipling them, training them, to pour into them so that they can get to a place to be full-on leaders.
Yeah.
But there is a hunger for kids to be leaders for sure. We have a lot of them in our leader training, but just with who I work with, just a different population group, like just trauma-based kids. It takes a little while, it takes a little longer, but It's only something Jesus can do, you know, and stuff. But we just keep being consistent, right? We're the only ones consistent in the kid's life. So keep being there with them through all that, Sean. They want to be leaders, but man,
Yep.
it's for the long. It's for the long haul. You know, definitely not a 2-week program for sure. It's years.
Yeah, I remember when I was there, I was seeing that challenge, and so I started asking some of the students like, why don't y'all want to get in on this leadership program, man? Like, I see a lot of great qualities in you, a lot of gifts and talents. You are a leader. You got influence. And I asked one particular kid, and he was like, "Man, it sounds like school. The way they make it sounds like more school. So like, I go to school during the day, then I get off, and then in the evening I got to go to school again. Like, I'm not even trying to do that, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel like we talked a little bit about it too, Ed. Like the outside influence of what they perceive as cool and dope or whatever they call it is lit. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the way it's being framed um, may not be appealing to these kids. You know, and then you got the trauma. You got like, what are my friends gonna think of me going to this and trying to change my life and be a leader? Like it's not talked about enough in the music that they listen to, in the movies that they watch, the shows that they watch. They don't see much about it like on social media. So I feel like there's hesitancy on their parts. But like you said, Jeff, it's not a 2-week thing. Like it's you gotta sit through the trenches with them, and oftentimes really it's just like planting seeds and just trusting that God will somehow water those seeds at some point. Like, you know, some seeds take years for anything to sprout up above the surface, but above ground to start growing. You know what I mean? But like you guys both mentioned other things too, and I feel like the trauma that they experience or the lack of motivation, there's something going on, and it to me it really hits on the theme of cultural transformation, and that it starts with me, and that I gotta take ownership of what I've been through and all of my mistakes and the things that I've done and get help for myself if I'm going to even try to attempt to help my son and steer him in a different direction than what I went when I was growing up. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, I think the hard part. See, I have a crazy role because when I was in that therapeutic situation, I still have that nurturing and that caring about myself, and where I had to still get the kids to buy into me, like
Yeah,
Jeff mentioned. I
yeah,
mean, school is hard. School is not where everybody wants to go. Kids don't want to go to school, and we've seen that right now in the numbers in across the United States because it's all about that quick money. Everybody wants that quick money. They want to get that. I want
yeah,
to be a millionaire right now. I want to get that fancy car. And so maybe we have to try. It's hard to try to cater to that. But my role, being the school resource officer, putting that uniform on, but the kids, I'm very fortunate because I'm African American and I'm big, and I'm from Chicago. So it's crazy. I get credit already because
yeah, yeah,
I got street cred. You from Chicago?
yeah.
Yeah,
Just being from the
I got
side.
I got street credit. And my brothers in the penitentiary, it's like, your brother? Yeah. I Google him. I said, yeah, Google my brother. You see his whole case right there. I said, you that turn like him? Like, no. Because my dad vowed he will kill me if I ever act like that boy. And so, and I just like, no. I got made fun of in the city. You know, I don't even see too many Boy Scouts. And this is another thing. I was just talking to another friend who's a social worker, and we was talking about basketball. Everybody said, get these kids in sports. Well, I looked at this one particular AAU team, company, whatever. They have no minorities on the team. And I'm looking at how much it costs. Like, that's a lot of money for a family to put out, and that can't afford it. How do we get them to play on the top-notch teams instead of the
Mhm.
teams that we know that can't travel. So that's another thing. But sports is always not the point. When we was growing up, Sean, you were young though, but sports used to be the way out. Like I'm gonna play sports to get out, but that's not the case.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We don't have any money to play to pay unless we know that particular kid is going to be the #1 player in the country and wherever he or she does. So
Yeah. Then you got other people investing in them. I'm
oh
not that young. I look young, so I take it. But I do know that aside from like hip hop and the rap industry and R&B and music and all that, sports was a way out of those of the ghetto environments. But like you said, like, it costs money, right? Like it costs money to get these kids on teams, get the equipment that they need, the gear that they need, get them into certain leagues on certain teams to travel, and they already come from neighborhoods with like super limited resources. So
yes,
how do we make that work for them to even have an opportunity? You know what I'm saying? So it really hits me. What I'm really starting to see too, like this whole cultural transformation. It starts with me. If everybody can like work on themselves, if us adults, because it's obvious, like it's not just me and say I'm married or I'm not married anymore, but it's not just on the family unit. There's gonna be there's a need for other areas in society, organizations, people to come along and invest in our children, the generation of youth, for them to have an opportunity to live a better life and to live in a better world than what we live in today. Does that make sense?
absolutely, absolutely. I think wonderful programs like Jeff is doing and other programs. But what I'm seeing also now, we talking about we want to get these kids going, but then we got other programs where we want we all want the same outcome for the kids, but other programs like probably like Jeff is running and some other programs, we are battling each other for the same kid, and then as adults, we start to badmouth each other in front of these kids,
Yes, yes.
and
Mhm.
I just don't know. And like I have some good friends that run good programs, but you can't badmouth another program for that kid and that parent because we want the best, but how do we fix that now, right? That's we talk about fathering as a kid, but how do we fix that as adults between programs?
Absolutely. So I just got a text from Vinny. We got like 7 minutes left before the session on Zoom ends. So like what you just said, it's a great segue, man. Like there's too much division, you know what I'm saying, in our country, in our communities. Politicians are divided, uh, churches are divided, organizations are divided, and people aren't coming together to work for a common goal. And really, like I feel like a lot of these organizations, these groups, these people, these ministries find their niche and their lane, and they stay in it. They don't collaborate and work together. And then what you're saying, they're bad mouthing each other. So it's like even in the church, people are bad mouthing each other. So how do we get people in the church and to come to Christ if the church is beefing with each other? And what's the impact that these organizations are having when they're bad mouthing each other and the kids are just watching us? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? We're teaching them how to be rebellious too.
and it starts early. I don't know, Jeff, if you've seen that in your organization, and so
Yeah, we fortunately we kind of we work with a different demographic of kids, so um, like Young Life, they reach more like kind of your popular, like just kind of white middle class kids. Youth for
yeah,
Christ, we kind of dive in onto your street level gang banging, drug dealing, just your super at risk youth. You know what I mean? So I don't see as much bad mouthing, but I do know what you're talking about, and I have seen
yeah,
a lot of stuff for sure.
yeah.
You know, even the same stuff, honestly, on a different note that ties into a lot of this stuff too, which my good friend Rodney McCauley, talked to me about. Do you know him?
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, ties into some of this stuff is racial reconciliation. Rodney's heart has been with racial reconciliation for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
He lived here with some stuff. And so just some good discussions I've had with him. Like, it's always got to start with us. You know what I mean? Even with YFC, like, I strategically, the key to that stuff is it has to start with me. And it's got to be intentional to actually live that by example. So I just hired an Islander kid from the Marshallese Islander, because if I want to reach Marshallese kids, for example, I have to build it from within by having some Marshallese leaders on my team, right? Really, it's on his team, not mine. And so I just hired a young Marshallese girl to build in the kingdom by example, right? And then I strategically actually brought in just an awesome black brother that loves Jesus, man, because we have a lot of diverse populations down here. And I've heard conversations with young black men and women who society says you're going to be this, you're this and this, and they believe the lie. They're raised up in that lie. I'm not a black brother, you know what I mean? I can't reach some of these kids and their cultural dynamics like an awesome, you know what I mean? Just saying.
Yeah.
Awesome black brother and sister can, because they know struggles and stuff that I don't know. I haven't been a part of it. So strategically, as we're talking about that, it's got to start with me. If I want to end racial reconciliation for it, just as a topic, like it has to start with me, and I have to build that from within. The key is relationships with people. So that's just one thing I did, is just bringing on and building stuff. If I'm going to talk about stuff like me and Rodney talk about, but I ain't about it and I don't do that stuff, I should really shut my mouth, because I'm just wasting another 30 years. You know what I mean, bro?
Yep.
So like the same thing, even with these kids, like Sean, like you said it, like, man, look at how much damage we do for the kingdom with people bad mouthing this and that and that. We're just part of the streets too. That's how the streets play, you know. But
Yeah.
these are good topics that we're talking about right now, for sure.
We're no different from them
No different,
No.
man. Those kids, they see
if we
it too.
act like that.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, they totally
Yeah.
see it, and then they mimic it all day long, you know.
Yep. Got to start with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, a big thing for me is like, if we're not doing it for our kids, then what the heck are we doing it for?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what really matters. And the life we leave behind for them will also be determined on the world we leave behind for them. So I'm in super deep recovery, and it hurts and it sucks and it's super excruciating and it's lonely a lot of times. But I've told God, like, I'll do whatever it takes, man. My son needs me in his life, and I need to be healthy, I need to be safe, and I need to be stable. So I don't cause him to go down the road that I went, because I'm unhealthy and I'm unsafe.
Yep. And Sean, and what do the kids, right? And that's what I like, that word. What does healthy look like to them? I mean, can we draw it? They don't know. So what? That's a big word. We always say we want to be healthy, but what does that look like? Right? I mean, what does that? We could just draw a pyramid around it, but we don't know, what does it look like? I hear that all the time. Like, well, tell me what healthy look like. I don't know. So
we got 2.5 minutes. You right though, dog, and like, I don't know either, but it can't look like what I've grown up doing. It's got to be something different. So it's like, I know that direction, I'm going the other direction. I'm gonna try something different, because everything else I've done has landed me alone, in a divorce, and without my family. You know what I'm saying? And so I gotta try everything different, and just trust God, and just keep going in the opposite direction.
Because I tell you, my daughter holds me accountable. My daughter Jada, she holds me accountable. I hold her too. And like we said, we get to hear from her. Just give Phil what. Sometimes I had to really think about some of the things I say to her, or the things I say around or by her friends, and she gets mad. I just have to be careful with that, because I learned now, don't bring my stress out work life home and to start being that grumpy person. So that's why I started doing TikTok with the kids.
TikTok, get it, boy. That's what's
Man,
up.
at Big Easy 48 radio people, follow me out there.
Young forever, forever young. So, hey,
Man,
man, I want to thank you, brothers, for joining me. I'm sure we'll have you guys back on the show at some point. A lot of these issues are all tied together and tangled up. It's a big mess. But if we don't try, we'll never succeed, right? And so that's the
yep,
big thing. Is like it may seem impossible, but I'll never know if I don't give it my all and keep going and not quit. You know what I'm saying?
absolutely. Appreciate
So
it.
Spokane, we love you. Cultural transformation is the topic on the docket. It starts with me. It starts with you. It starts with you. It starts with all of us. And it is possible because with man, it may be impossible, but with God, all things are possible. Amen.
Amen.
30 seconds. Hey, I love y'all, man. Thank you
Thank you.
again. And
Shout out Big
I'll be
Easy
hollering
48
at
at
y'all.
Big Easy 48 TikTok. Follow me. Follow me.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey. All
Big
right.
Easy. Big Easy on
See
the
you.
mic. Hey, see you guys.
Thank you.